What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on what if Deku had Asta's powers part 3. Where we last left off, they had just taken the test to, assess their quirks and everything, with Deku coming in second place. Much to the dismay of his teacher, Deku didn't use his full power, which, after Deku explained, the teacher was a little bit more understanding. Aizawa and Deku over the next week formed a closer relationship, seeing how their quirks were super similar, both being able to cancel someone else's quirk. Or at least, Deku, in his case scenario, he can cancel / weaken quirks of other people. My bad, guys. My throat had phlegm in it. Could cancel / weaken other people, while Aizawa would just straight cancel. He didn't have the weakening capability Deku had. So, Aizawa started to train Deku. Deku had already received somewhat previous sword training. He had a pretty good understanding of his swords, not to mention the devil within, as he is called Mr. D, to Deku's dismay. Mr. D hadn't talked to him much since he became part of UA. He said that he was just going to sit back and let Deku experience everything firsthand. Deku just shrugged his shoulders, understanding what Mr. D had meant, as he was going throughout the week experiencing new things, meeting more teachers, and understanding his classmates better. I'm really sorry about that, guys. Some of his classmates, to say it the best way, were basically kind of afraid of him when he went into his, what Deku called, black mode. See, people kind of said that Deku looked like a demon when he went into it. Deku said, yeah, that's just how it manifests itself, in a demon-like looking appearance. This kind of horrified some of the students, but there was nothing Deku could do about it, so he kind of went on with his day anyway. Sorry, guys. Had to fix something real quickly. After talking with Aizawa more and more, Aizawa tells Deku that he needs to kind of get stronger. Deku said that he already knew this and he was already working on getting stronger, but it's not like he could just increase his training rate. Aizawa sighs, responding with, I know you can't just increase your training rate. That's the reason why I didn't just say increase your training rate. See, the issue with your ability, Izuku, is that it's mainly more reliant on skill. Deku kind of understood. And then he said, and also, you have 2 other swords, right? But you said that you haven't worked with these other swords, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Deku responded. So what are these swords? What can they do? Well, I haven't worked with them, so I couldn't tell you. Okay. So then, I'll just go off assumptions for now. Okay. So, you said that you know your third sword is way stronger than the sword you have currently. Yes. Okay. And what is the sword you have currently? Well, I have the Demon Slayer and the Demon Dweller sword. Demon Dweller has the capabilities of, I guess you could call it, borrowing quirks, while the Demon Slayer sword has the ability to reflect projectile quirks, as well as to destroy them, just like how the Demon Slayer Dweller sword could. That seems to be a shared trait between all my swords, is that they all can destroy quirks. Destroy? What do you mean by destroy? Well, basically, I can't nullify a quirk before it's been activated. Or at least, not yet. I have been training a new skill in private, mainly because the skill itself is too dangerous to be used out of private. Okay. Would you like to explain to me what this skill is? Yes, sir. The skill, in essence, to say in the best possible way I can, is that it's basically a skill that inside a certain radius around me, people cannot use their quirks. Huh. Yes. But the issue is, it drains me a lot quicker. Okay, and why does it drain you so much quicker? See, it's not me who generates the power, it's the swords themselves. Okay. So in other words, what you're getting at is that since you don't generate the power, the swords does, when you have to convey it into you to then convey it out of you, it's way more difficult for you. Yes, that's exactly what I'm getting at. That would make sense. So is there any way to make it, I don't know, less difficult on you? I don't know. I'd have to talk with a friend of mine. A friend of yours? Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's nothing of importance currently. As I was kind of intrigued by this quote-unquote friend of his. But seeing how it was Deku's personal business, he decided not to intervene on it. So instead, Aizawa asked a new question. He asked, "So, Izuku, I'm wondering if you're willing to become my apprentice, I guess you could say." "Your apprentice," Deku said, confusingly. "Yes, you see, your quirk is very similar to mine. And I feel like if your quirk is harnessed correctly, you could easily become the strongest hero. No doubt in my mind." "Okay. And are you saying you want to train me?" "Yes, see, your quirk is a lot like my quirk. And if you can get that new ability under control, your quirk can be even stronger than my quirk. Right now, your quirk is limited to your physical skill. But if you can get it to be like how you say it is, then your quirk could easily outmatch mine. God, even All Might really couldn't even face you by that point." Deku kind of thought that was incorrect. Of course, his ability would allow him to not allow anyone the basic ability of, well, using their quirks around him. But then again, All Might is the strongest pro hero. The pure aspect of All Might not being able to use his quirk around him does make sense, but at least he should have some base strength. Like the man's a walking beefcake. There should be no reasoning why. And I just want to clarify, just so you know, Deku has not seen All Might without being buffed up. So literally, Deku would just think All Might is just naturally well-toned body. You know. Not to mention his quirk. Even though it seems to be an emitter-style quirk, judging by how it works, it's still too dangerous. Don't get me wrong. None of my swords currently can actually affect quirks that are not emitter. Oh, so your quirks can affect like mutation quirks? Yeah, they can't affect mutation quirks. Well, that's an issue. I know it is. So, how would it affect someone with a mutation quirk? I have no clue. I've never tried to affect anyone that has a mutation quirk. I don't feel like using classmates as test subjects, sir. That's fair enough. It would be absurd to use classmates as test subjects. At least we can both agree on that. So, let's look at the basis of your quirk. You said you haven't used 2 of your swords, right? Yes. One of them was specifically not used because of its high magic, and then the other one I just haven't touched yet. Why haven't you touched the other one? Well, you see, the anti-magic in my swords really depends on how the sword looks. Last one is a katana. Now, see, the issue with this last one is that it doesn't have a name. What do you mean? Well, Deku pulls out his book, and showing the book, he can show that each sword above its picture is labeled. And then Deku shows off the final one, and doesn't have the label. Aizawa can instantly see why Deku would be a little bit more antsy about using a sword he has no clue what the name is. So you're saying you're not using this sword just because you're afraid of what could happen? Yes, I have no clue what its abilities are. Using it right now would be dangerous. How do you know about the other sword? Well, let's just say my quirk is kind of sentient. Okay. What does that mean? Well, you see, my quirk kind of can talk to me, but only to me. Okay. And my quirk is telling me how to better forward myself. That's why I came up with the idea of expelling my anti-quirk energy outwards from my body. Deku does know that it's actually anti-magic. Just want to clarify this again. I know we're only on part 3, and for people who are watching this all in a row, good for you, by the way. You might find this a bit repetitive, but yeah, Deku does know it's anti-magic thanks to the devil. Well, I guess I've heard some quirks be counted as sentient. For example, Tokiyami's Dark Shadow seems to have a will of its own. Deku says. Well, I guess there's nothing we can do. So, what's this other dude like? Well, I don't know. Which just kind of intrigued. Whatever his name is. God damn it. Kind of intrigued Aizawa. He started to ask Deku, what do you mean you don't know? It's kind of hard not to know stuff about your own quirk. Deku said, well, yes, where you would be usually correct. It is hard to know about it. Okay, and why is that? Well, you see, my quirk in itself, as we've already talked about, is weird. It's not like a generic quirk like most. And because of that, it gets kind of more difficult on the given situation. So, I don't talk with him often. Why? He gives me the heebie-jeebies. Okay, Izuku, stop joking around. I'm not. You tried talking to a black, shadowy, devilish-looking figure and see how well it goes for you. Aizawa was kind of shocked. He's like a black, shadowy, devilish-looking figure? Is that how he looks like, Izuku? Yeah, exactly like that. He is a black, devilish-looking figure. There is absolutely no better way I can explain how he looks. Okay. Aizawa was rubbing his temples at this point, trying to think of a way to confirm this case and that it being that way. Deku said, yep, there's no way for you to talk to him, though. Why? I can only talk to him when I'm basically meditating. Or, it's been a little bit easier as of late to just communicate with him, but it's still quite hard. Okay. So what you're saying is that under current circumstances, you could talk to him. Yes, I can talk to him right now if need be. But it's not like I want to continuously talk to him. Okay. So, what I understand from this is that your basic abilities are to have the capability of defying quirks, and so far what you've heard from your quirk itself is that the third sword can somehow mess with mutation-style quirks. Your third sword can borrow power from other quirk users, and you said this was confirmed during some testing when you were younger. And then your first sword can reflect attacks, while all of them can still disarm attacks in general. And Deku also added, and my third sword can delete basic effects. What do you mean by delete? Well, basically, say if I had say if someone had a poison quirk where they can infect someone with poison, okay? My ability when I use my thing is that it lets me deactivate that quirk, basically, even if it's already infect as well. Wow, that's actually insane. Now, there's not too many people that I know that give out a poisonous liquid for a quirk. Yeah, so it's not super useful currently, but I still thought it was pretty cool and useful. Well, you're not wrong. It's pretty cool and kind of useful. Thank you. No problem. Aizawa takes a deep sigh, thinking about how much work this boy is going to be. He almost seems to have no common sense whatsoever. Almost like his parents didn't even give a damn to teach him anything. Deku kind of noticed this, and he's like, Sensei, are you okay? Aizawa sighs again and says, yeah, I'm okay. Well, that's all for today. Please think about my offer to train you. Deku said, oh, I don't even have to think about your offer. I accept. Aizawa was kind of surprised by Deku just quickly accepting his offer without even a second train of thought. Aizawa smiles and he's like, I'm going to put you through hell. I hope you know that. That's good. I'm okay with being put through hell. If it's something to help me become a better hero, then I have no qualms about it. Okay, just remember, you asked for this. Deku responded. Eventually, Aizawa and Deku started to train every day. Aizawa would start training Deku by letting Deku meditate to increase his deterioration in his black form, as well as to get a better feel for his magic. Eventually, then Aizawa started to train Deku in a different way. He started to spar with Deku every day at the end of class. They would spar to increase their training ability. This went on for about 2 weeks. And then one day while Deku and Aizawa was training, Deku said, okay, Mr. Aizawa, I'm going to use that one move. The one move? Are you sure you would like to use the one move? Yes, I think I'm ready for it. You think you're ready for it now? Well, we have been training your control of your anti-magic, so maybe you are ready for it. Go ahead, try it. Deku shook his head up and down. Deku then slowly breathed in and out. He put both of his hands on the sword itself and started to surge anti-magic power in throughout his body. Deku can easily hold his anti-magic form for a month now without even feeling any loss in his strength or anything else. So while Deku was sitting there, he took deep breaths in and out. And then eventually, he went to his black form. Deku felt the strain started to come on as he slowly starts pushing out his energy. He imagined the energy becoming a small sphere, and Aizawa could see a small black sphere start to circulate around Deku, which he smiled at. Deku then pushed it out more and more, gradually expanding the sphere until it was about 5 feet in distance away from him. But then Deku suddenly fell to his knees. Aizawa quickly rushed to help him. There were still the effects of the anti-magic sphere going on, so Aizawa felt a slight strain on his body when he entered, but he ignored it and quickly grabbed Deku. Deku then fell unconscious after deactivating his anti-magic sphere. So basically, this is a headcanon skill I made up before I state anything else about it. So if you don't like my headcanon skill, which is Deku being able to create an anti-magic sphere or sphere of anti-magic, I figured he would be able to create it for a simple reasoning. And especially when he eventually starts making more deals with the devil, he should definitely be able to make it. But currently, right now, basically what it is that if you ever seen... Oh, God, what's the anime? If you haven't seen this anime, if you have seen it, this should come to, like, mind. It's... The main character in the anime has this ability called Fool's World. And inside this range, no one can use magic. Now, see, this is a little bit different for Deku, because Deku can still use magic, or use anti-magic inside the world, basically rendering every other quirk user useless, while Deku can still go into his black form and take him out, even though it's a great cost of anti-magic. And seeing how he does not personally produce it, and he's just a mediator for it, some anti-magic is lost in the practice, not to mention it puts an even heavier strain on his body. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Getting back into the content now. After Deku had woken up, he felt the exhaust in his body. He could barely move. Aizawa sat there and was like, I guess you weren't ready for it yet, kid. Deku slowly sat up, with the help of Aizawa, and says, I guess I wasn't. That practice took a lot more out of me than I expected. I couldn't tell. You did kind of fall flat unconscious. But hey, at least you did do the skill. It worked, for what it's worth. Deku smiled at Mr. Aizawa and said, that's worth a lot. That just proves that his abilities were getting stronger by the day, and that his training here was useful. Aizawa smiled. Him and Deku had gone closer by this point, and more have had a similar bond to a father/son. More or less had this similar bond to what All Might and Midoriya had in canon. Afterwards, Aizawa says, okay, you need to rest up though, bro. Tomorrow, we'll be doing the hero thing. Yeah, whatever it is. We'll be doing the hero versus villains test. You should be able to recover your anti-quirk energy from that, right? And be able to move. Deku said, yeah, I should definitely be able to move after it. Okay, I leave it up to you then, kid. I will. Later that night, Deku started to talk with the devil. The devil was like, oh, you finally came talk to me. Yeah, I was wondering how you were doing, Izuku said. The devil kind of snickered at this, and he's like, I'm doing fine, kid. What about you? How's your training going? Good. I took your advice you gave me earlier about sending the anti-magic outside my body rather than just congealing it all inside. Oh, that's good, he said. Yeah, but it was a lot more difficult, and really I ran out of energy a lot quicker than what I expected. Yeah, get used to that, kid. Running out of energy quicker than you expected is common. Deku sighed, because he had already gotten a rough understanding that running out of energy was going to become his new favorite thing to do. When, after he's done sighing, the devil said, so, kid, how's it going? How's what going? Your training, of course. How is it going? Are you finding it hard, or are you finding it easy? Do you want to make a deal, or not? Deku said, no, I still don't want to make a deal yet. The demon sighed at this and was like, fine, whatever, kid. You do what you want to do. Deku saw the demon kind of pout, and he really didn't know what to say at this point, you know. He's never seen a demon pout before. Deku just sighed as he got up and left the area. Eventually, Deku ended up waking up. It appeared he had fallen asleep after finishing talking to the demon. Deku then got dressed for the day and prepared to go to school. Thanks to him hearing from Mr. Aizawa about the hero versus villains practice today, Deku was kind of already self-prepared. He had thought about it in advance, thanks to Mr. Aizawa. So, He quickly got on his clothes and prepared to head out the door. Before heading out, his mother stopped him for a little bit, though, and told him to be careful. She understands that he's very strong and he has tons of potential, but she does want him to be careful. She doesn't want him to just run into an area and end up getting attacked, while she can do nothing but sit here and watch. Deku said that he wouldn't, and that it was okay. Inko just sighed at this. Deku just smiled and walked out. Afterwards, Deku found a boy when he was walking to school. The boy looked weird. He had a red hat on with 2 horns protruding from it, but Deku didn't want to say anything. He didn't want to be weird and talk to the boy who was sitting there. Well, after Deku walked past, he walked into school. He noticed that almost everyone was kind of excited. Deku did train with everyone else like normal, so everyone knew who Deku was and knew his powers. Only a few of them got to see his black form, though, so not everyone knew about that, but the people who did quoted it to be a very scary form of Deku that they don't wish to see often. Mainly because when Deku goes into his black form, he looks like Satan himself. Deku kind of sighed at this, understanding that he was nowhere near Satan's abilities, because Satan was way stronger than him. He had heard from the anti-magic devil that it was way more difficult to fight Satan than what they had expected. That was a very close battle, with him barely winning in the end. Since Deku already knew how strong Satan was, he really didn't want to say much to the guys and the girls who would always spread rumors about him. He could hear them in the background, though, constantly talking. And he thought, for trying to be heroes, you guys really failed at that bit. He never said it out loud, though, but Deku slowly started to act more cocky. It wasn't like he meant to be more cocky on purpose. He just felt that his base abilities were far better than anyone else's. And to be accurate, most people, when Deku went full out, couldn't even hold a candle to him. So Deku's cockiness at least had a reasoning for being as cocky as he was. Everyone else looked at Deku when Deku walked in. He said, "Hi, guys." A few people responded. The ones being called out being Yaoyorozu and Uraraka and Ida, Deku's closer friends. Yaoyorozu had a weird interest in Deku, I guess you can say. She was very interested in Deku's abilities and wanted to know more about how his powers work and how he can cancel quirks. But Deku usually declined the opportunities that Yaoyorozu kind of created. She constantly tried to talk to him more and more, but Deku just politely declined them. And that's where I'm going to leave it off, guys. I know we didn't even get to the next part, but if you liked it, hit the like button. And if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Now, into the next little last tidbit. Thank you for letting us reach 300 subscribers. I'm not even lying when I'm saying this is an immense milestone, and I can't believe we made it here this quickly. I want us to grow better, and I want to continue creating better content for you all. For people who like the Avatar series and who are watching this video, I'm going to throw this out there because there seemed to have been some confusion in my comments. Avatar will come back. It is not done. It's just getting replaced for the 300 subscriber special for a little bit. Because as I stated, I only like having 3 what ifs running at a time. So one of them had to go onto the back burner, and I really didn't want to put any of my other series on the back burner that didn't have nearly as many parts. So I decided to put Avatar, which literally had 9 parts. So please do understand my reasoning for doing so. It wasn't just because I was like, oh, you know, there was no reason to continue doing Avatar. Because I actually liked Avatar. Avatar was my second favorite one out of all the ones I'm doing currently. And if you're wondering what my first favorite one was, it was Asta. Yeah, I'm a sucker for Black Clover. But I just want to say that and get that out of the water. Avatar will probably be back in at most 2 weeks. So until then, and until next time, goodbye.